major developments that shows that Ukraine currently has the upper hand in the war between Ukraine and Russia. But first, this is Crisis Report, and if you want to keep these reports coming, remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks. Let's take a look at this. The Russians are digging in, building trench systems. Now they're doing this now before the ground freezes, because I'm not going to say impossible, but digging these things out in frozen ground is extremely difficult. So we are seeing this happen. This is just a generic picture. I don't know which side made this one, but let's look at this report that I'm basing this on, and we will be analyzing the situation here. Again, defense intelligence from the United Kingdom Ministry of Defense. So this is where I'm getting the information from. Always check the sources, whether whoever's doing it, keep that in mind with what is going on, because I'm sure there's the fog of war, things will be reported wrong. I'm sure I'll get some stuff wrong over time, but I'm trying to use the best sources I can that are reliable. Right, okay. On the update. Now this is back on when I'm recording this is on the 21st. This is back on November 18th. Took me a couple of days to really get to some of this and understand what it's meaning. Okay, following the withdrawal of its forces from west of the Dnipro River, you remember that from World War II, Russian forces continue, this is the evacuation of Kherson. The Russian forces continue to prioritize refitting, reorganization, and preparations of defense across most sectors in Ukraine. Okay, that's not just in the sort of southwest, if you will. It's everywhere they're doing that. Units have constructed new trench systems near the border of Crimea, as well as near the Siversky-Donets River between Donetsk and Luhansk Oblasts. Some of these locations are up to 60 kilometers behind the current front line, key point there, suggesting that Russian planners are making preparation in case of further major Ukrainian breakthroughs. It is likely that Russia will attempt to eventually redeploy some of the forces recovered from Kherson to reinforce and expand its offensive operations near the town of Bakhmut in Donetsk Oblast. Right. Okay. Let's take a look at a map here so we can understand to some degree what is happening. Now, they've withdrawn from here. They're building trench systems, some back near Crimea, some out over in these areas we can see. Now, why are they doing, they're looking at defense in depth, obviously. They're building trench systems now because they know once winter comes, the ground freezes, they're not going to be effectively, if things aren't going well, they're not going to be effectively able to do that later on. Also, a little while ago, which is also important and does have on this, I guess we'll read the full thing as well here. By November 12th, 2022, Russian military had almost certainly completed the withdrawal forces. This is, with the abandonment of Kherson City. This is the Russia has made the Azov Sea port town of Henichesk, I'm sorry, I'm butchering some of these names, a temporary capital of the occupied region. Russia will likely also redeploy military command units to the Henichesk area. Choice of this area as command node hints at the priorities and concerns of Russian commanders as they consolidate their defenses in southern Ukraine. It is well positioned to coordinate action against potential Ukrainian threats from both Kherson City in the west and via Melitopol to the northeast, and to receive reinforcements from Crimea. Above all, it is currently out of range of Ukrainian artillery systems, which have inflicted heavy damage on Russian field command posts. Right. That city, I did look it up here, is right here. Okay. And that is key here. That is key. You have to understand what's going on here, and I know I have an imperfect understanding of it, but you need to understand the military campaigns that have been in this area over the years. Of course, the Second World War is the one that looms large, but we also have the Russian Civil War. The Sea of Azov, the Black Sea. These are. This is why all this is happening. Sure, Russia would like more land mass. Sure, Russia would like to have a larger population. Those aren't in dispute here. But why Ukraine? Why earlier Crimea out of Ukraine is the Black Sea and trade and strategic position. They've fallen back to this line. This is as of today. We're making the video here. Or I guess now it's clicked over midnight. It's yesterday. But basic positions, areas of dispute. Russia's digging in for the winter. I was talking to one of my contacts in Ukraine about conditions for the winter. He says snowfall isn't normally very deep, so it doesn't normally limit the or significantly hamper off-road vehicles operating in winter. I'm again bowing to his expertise on the region. This is very, very flat. And Ukraine has been gearing up with more and more off-road military vehicle types, not as opposed to supply trucks or whatnot. With winter coming, with a lot of conscripts going to be pushed into the lines to hold it during the winter, they're not going to want to be very active defenders. They're going to want to sit in warm dugouts, warm bunker positions, trying to be heated by fires and whatnot. They're not going to want to have a overly spread out observing front line. This will allow the ability for the Ukrainians, if they so choose, and I'm mainly looking down in here, but it's also in these other parts, I'm sure, as well, to allow special force type raids, and they are forming these units. I may look at that in another episode, to be able to do deep strikes. Because we have Melitopol here, which is the sort of recently famous siege. Melitopol, these names. Here is a important transport node. These are, the red lines are primarily railways here. So you need to hold this here if you're going to supply into Crimea in any or anywhere else by any other way than the sea. You've got to hold this along here because this is railway. Trucks are not going to cut it to keep these armies alive through the winter. It's got to be based on, at least for the long haul. The last 10, 20, 30 miles can be done by trucks, as obviously we can see. But to get supplies from wherever the supply depots in Russia, to get them to the front lines, you need to use the trains. Now, they're realizing that these can be very vulnerable. It is easy to sabotage railroads. It is easy to put IEDs along other roads that are observed to be commonly used as supply roads for Russian forces. This can catastrophically disrupt supply, and without supply, the defending forces will starve. So, looking here, they're building their defenses back deeper. They're building their defenses other places. They're preparing to lose this section this winter by having because this is the Oblats region. We see the lines here. It had the capital for Kherson. The capital had been in Kherson. This is the Kherson Oblast. The Russians temporarily moved the capital, the political capital here, and as the update talks about the likelihood that this is going to be the military command node. I don't know how strong that is, because obviously you could have the command node here ready to fall back into Ukraine. But either way, they're ready to evacuate via sea if things, or resupply via the sea. And it is reasonably effective to supply forces in the ports. It's not nearly as effective to get it and then bring it forward deep into the lines. So by setting up these forces in these ways for the winter, they are ceding much of the advances in this sector, I think, potentially to fall back. Now, I don't know if Ukraine will move into the vacuum. Probably, if that happens. That may or may not be a good thing to do so, because I do believe Russia is gearing up for a spring offensive next year. So to have your forces forward deployed may not be the best idea for you to deal with that offensive. But we can see the digging in and preparing for withdrawing to last-ditch defensive positions coming up this winter. So keep that in mind. I don't think there's going to be a major offense by Ukraine this winter, but there very well may be a collapse of Russian control in certain areas, and then the Ukrainians would just simply be moving into the vacuum of territory left. That's different than a proper offensive. So that is my analysis of what is going. The critical elements here that we're withdrawing back to you, Crimea as being sort of being prepared for and being ready to withdraw back in other places as well. If you have any questions, comments, areas you want looked at, please post them below. See you next time. Got another report coming up very soon that is a game changer for the war.